The Daily Bugle features the news of Spider-Man's death. It states in bold letters, "Spider-Man R.I.P." It further adds, "New York City's fallen hero was Queens high school student Peter Parker." Gwen Stacy reads the newspaper and is distraught by the news, screaming to herself, "I'm cursed." Jonah Jameson is working in his office, visibly disturbed by the news. He thinks to himself, "I knew the truth about Peter Parker. I knew he was Spider-Man." We see Johnny Storm raging in the skies, setting himself ablaze while screaming at the top of his lungs. A robbery is going on in an electronics store, with 3 robbers trying to steal a plasma TV. One of them calls out to the other, saying, "Did you hear that?" Almost instantly, he receives an answer in the form of a barrage of punches directed right at his face. The other 2 stop dead in their tracks, with one firing his gun at the figure, yelling, "It's one of them!" He is soon taken out by a punch right in the kisser. The last robber falls down and stutters, "Okay, I give up!" The pleading is ignored, however, and he also gets smacked in the face. The guy is flabbergasted by such ferocity and tries to speak, but the figure, who is revealed to be Kitty Pryde, speaks with tears in her eyes and a fierce expression. "I hate you all." Flash Thompson is the only guy sitting in class. He's confused and asks the teacher if the class is canceled. She just face-palms, and he thinks to himself, "Was I the only one who didn't know Peter Parker was Spider-Man?" At the Queensboro Bridge, a cleanup is taking place. Men in suits surround the bridge, and one of them receives a phone call. It's from his home, and he gets upset when asked how long it's going to take him to get to dinner, as he screams, "However long it takes." We see Mary Jane hiding behind some debris with a camera in her hand as she records. One of the guys notices her. He runs after her and yells, "Hey, stop! Stop right there!" She quickly gets surrounded by guys, and one of them tells her, "This is a closed-off area. This is a crime scene." He proceeds to ask her name. Mary Jane runs away from them, with a guy yelling to grab her and her camera. One of the guys grabs her from behind and restrains her. They take the camera from her as she screams, "Give it back! Give it back!" The guy holding her tells her to settle down as she screams for help. Nick Fury shows up and is shocked to see her there as he questions, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" One of the guys responds, "She snuck onto secure ground, was taking pictures. We need to confiscate." Nick cuts him off and orders, "Take the camera and send her home." Nick angrily talks to Mary. "Kid, just once I'm looking the other way. Go home. Boom. I don't want to see you again." Mary Jane is furious and screams at Nick, "You killed him! I know you killed him. It wasn't you who pulled the trigger, but it was you who had him killed. I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows." Nick looks defeated as he tells Mary to go home and not return. Mary proceeds to leave, as Nick tells the men to get back to work. Aunt May and Gwen are sitting in Tony Stark's limousine, driving to Peter's funeral, signs of mourning apparent on their faces. Tony tries to console them and says, "I'm picking up the tab for the funeral, and all that entails. It's not a big deal for me, and well..." He is stopped by a blank stare from Aunt May, after which he continues, "I just didn't want you to have to worry." Aunt May tells him that she doesn't want a huge funeral to take place. Tony glances out the window and tells her she might not have much say in the matter. The New York church is seen crowded by thousands of people who are there for the proceedings. Gwen and Aunt May are in shock by the sheer number of people. Aunt May says she didn't want this. Tony sees this and offers to take her home, to which she replies, "I don't have a home." Tony insists that he can take her wherever she needs to go right now. However, he emphasizes the funeral by saying, "This wasn't planned. This gathering, it just happened. If you have it in you, I think you should let it happen. The city needs to mourn, too." He says that this is about much more than just the people who knew him, but it's still her call if she has it in her. Looking at the panic on her face, Tony asks to take her back home, but Aunt May refuses. Tony helps her out of the car as they walk to the church. A girl from the crowd gathered at the side calls for Aunt May. She asks, "Are you Spider-Man's mommy?" Aunt May replies, "No, sweetie, I'm his aunt." The girl follows up with, "But you made him breakfast like his mommy." The girl's mother tries to tell her to be quiet, but Aunt May tells her it's all right. The girl then says, "When I was little, Spider-Man saved me from a fire, so I didn't die." Hearing this makes Aunt May tear up. The girl sees this and hugs Aunt May. Then they part ways and head into the church. Aunt May goes and sits in the first row. She's approached by Steve Rogers, aka Captain America. He grabs Aunt May's hand and kneels on the ground. He says he wants to tell her something, with remorse on his face. He tells her, "It's my fault your boy is dead." Aunt May goes into shock as she hears this. She asks Steve how it's his fault that Peter died. He replies with tears in his eyes, "Please, I just wanted to say I'm sorry." Aunt May further questions him about what he did. He further explains that he had told him he wasn't ready for the uniform, as he was still just a child. With the tears still flowing, he says, "And the gunshot wound that eventually killed him, it was meant for me. He jumped in front of it to save me." Aunt May goes hysterical after hearing this as she screams, "So after you emasculated him, even though he had proved himself a hero over and over and over again, after you told him he wasn't worthy, he saved your life? Is that what you're telling me?" Steve nods and says, "Yes." Aunt May continues, "He worshipped you people, you know that, don't you? He thought of you as the knights at the round table." She tells him the reason he wore a costume was to be like them. All he wanted was to earn a place at their table. Aunt May gets up from her seat and starts yelling, "You people come into his life. You promised to train him, and what did you do? Nothing. He was fine before he met you. He was doing fine." Aunt May turns to face Steve with a look of rage in her eyes. She slaps Steve in front of everyone and turns to leave. As she exits the church, the crowd is still there, bigger than ever. Aunt May gets dizzy and falls on the church steps. Gwen rushes to her and tries helping her get up. Jonah Jameson arrives on the scene and introduces himself, saying that they've met before. He helps her up and asks if he can escort her to her seat, or if there's another place she wants to be right now. Aunt May is helpless and says she doesn't know what to do at this point. Jonah tells her, "If I may, I think you'll regret not going back inside." This is convincing enough, as Jonah leads Aunt May back to the cathedral. The funeral proceeds, with the preacher mentioning, as in remembrance, we look back at who Peter was and find peace in the fact that he is now in a better place. Thor is sitting in the pews at the funeral as he starts a monologue. "Midgard, Earth, was put in my protection for a reason," he says. He states that Odin had great plans to remake both worlds. They should look up and know that if they live their lives as they should, if they're honorable and have courage, they'll find a favorable place and guard with Odin himself. However, this path is lined with trickery and deceit. Should anyone fall astray, an inevitable death awaits them. The valiant, the bold, people that do make it through, for them there lies a great hall. For those faithful, there lies providence. He ends with, "For the heroes, there is Valhalla, and there, in that place, legends never die." Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.